All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going on a pretty wild journey. We're going to start with that deeply relatable, totally exasperating frustration of stepping in a warm puddle on your favorite rug, and we'll go all the way to the complex philosophical debates that are literally dividing the entire dog training industry right now. So, whether you're bringing home a new furry friend for the very first time, or you're just trying to wrap your head around the intricate world of canine behavioral science, this deep dive is going to give you a complete, clear picture of the landscape. To truly understand why training matters so immensely, we've got to look at the stakes. In 2024 alone, a staggering 2.9 million dogs entered the animal shelter system. Take a second and just let that number sink in. 2.9 million. It's a massive, almost incomprehensible figure, right? And it represents a very real challenge facing our communities, our animal welfare organizations, and, of course, the dogs themselves. And here's where it gets heartbreaking, because up to 40% of those dogs are surrendered by their owners simply because of behavioral problems. We're talking about issues that, honestly, in the vast majority of cases, could have been managed, mitigated, or completely prevented with the right training early on. You see, training isn't just about teaching fun party tricks like roll over or play dead. It's quite literally a matter of life and death for these animals, keeping them safe in their homes and out of the shelter system. So today, we're navigating this whole micro to macro journey together. We'll be looking at the art of house training, crate training, erasing pet urine odors, the professional training divide, and finally, the unregulated training industry. Section 1, the art of house training. Let's kick things off right in the living room with the absolute most foundational step of dog ownership. Research from the Calgary Humane Society actually proves that successful house training isn't about luck. It's really not about having a good dog versus a bad dog. It is entirely about giving your dog a structured, reliable routine. Dogs are naturally clean animals. They'd much prefer not to soil their sleeping and eating areas, but they have to be systematically taught that our expensive carpets and hardwood floors are not appropriate bathrooms. This all comes down to an optimal outing schedule. You've got to take them out first thing in the morning, whenever they wake up from a nap, right after meals, and honestly, every 30 to 90 minutes throughout the day, depending on how old they are. Yes, it's exhausting, but you basically need to become a detective. You're constantly watching for circling, restlessness, or sniffing the ground. And when you catch them and they do it right outside, boom, you reward them immediately with high-value treats and praise. It's all about setting the puppy up for success through constant supervision and perfectly timed positive reinforcement. Section 2, crate training. Den or cage? Okay, so now that we've got a schedule, we have to ask ourselves a pretty tough question about the tools we use. We really need to bust a super popular myth here. The idea that dogs naturally crave being locked in a small box for hours on end because they're den animals. As canine behaviorists are quick to point out, sure, wild canids might use a nest for defense or protection from the weather, but pups use it as a home base to explore from, not a permanent enclosure. Think about it for a second. There's no door on a natural den that locks a dog inside. Biologically speaking, young puppies have strict physical limits. This means crates can only ever be a short-term management tool, definitely not a long-term storage solution. We go by the 1-hour rule. If your puppy is 3 months old, they can only hold their bladder for a maximum of about 3 hours. So crating a young puppy while you're at work for an 8-hour shift, that's simply setting them up for failure and causing them immense physical discomfort. And think about this. If a crate is improperly sized, you completely undermine a dog's natural instinct to stay clean, which instantly ruins all your hard-earned house training efforts. If a crate is too large, the puppy will just sleep cozily in one corner and use the other far corner as a bathroom. To work effectively, the space must be properly sized, just large enough for them to stand up, turn around, and stretch out comfortably. That's it, nothing more. Now, if crates are overused, behavioral experts warn that excessive confinement can literally trigger emotional deterioration and separation distress. One behaviorist in the literature even compares this intense, desperate attachment to the crate to a form of, Stockholm Syndrome. Routinely caging a dog for 16 to 18 hours a day is an extremely problematic practice. It can actually create the exact behavioral issues, like aggression, reactivity, or profound anxiety, that ultimately lead to dogs being surrendered to shelters in the first place. Section 3, erasing pet urine odors. Because, hey, accidents are gonna happen. Let's look at the actual chemistry of cleaning. Ever wonder why your dog keeps peeing in that exact same spot in your hallway? It's because regular household cleaners completely fail to break down uric acid crystals. They leave this invisible scent magnet behind. Remember, a dog's sense of smell is unbelievably powerful, so even if that spot smells beautifully lemony fresh to us, your dog's nose picks up the leftover uric acid. To them, it's like a giant neon signpost flashing, "Hey, over here, this is the bathroom." So, how do we permanently unplug that neon sign? Dr. Terry has a scientifically backed protocol that outlines exactly what to do. Step 1, do not reach for regular chemical cleaners first, as they can actually set the stain. Step 2, test your carpet for color fastness in a hidden spot. Step 3, apply a specialized enzyme cleaner, and be generous with it. Step 4 is totally crucial. You want to keep the area wet. Sometimes you even need to cover it with a damp towel or cling wrap. Step 5, give it time to dwell, so those bioenzymes can actually eat away the uric acid at a molecular level. And finally, step 6, just blot the area dry. Don't scrub, otherwise you'll wreck your carpet fibers. Section 4, the professional training divide. Let's zoom way out to the philosophy now. When basic methods fail, we naturally turn to professionals for help. But the advice you get, it can be radically different depending on who picks up the phone. A lot of modern trainers strictly adhere to something called LIMA, which stands for Least Intrusive, Minimally Aversive Training. This is a framework ensuring that the emotional and physical well-being of the dog is always prioritized over simple, quick obedience. Before they even try to change a behavior, a LIMA trainer looks at the environment and the dog's physical health to see if the issue can be resolved with the absolute least intrusive methods possible. This philosophical divide in the industry is absolutely massive. It essentially boils down to a fascinating ethical debate. On one side, positive reinforcement trainers operate on what we call deontological ethics. That's just a fancy way of saying they believe causing intentional discomfort to an animal is fundamentally always ethically wrong no matter what the outcome is. The other side, mixed methods trainers, relies on consequentialist ethics. They believe the ends justify the means. To them, short-term discomfort is entirely justified if the ultimate consequence prevents a dog from running into traffic, biting someone, or ultimately being put down. Just to be crystal clear on the terminology here, mixed method trainers are willing to utilize something called positive punishment to quickly shut down dangerous behaviors. They might use tools like e-collars or prong collars to add a physical stimulus that successfully suppresses an unwanted action. Positive reinforcement trainers, on the other hand, actively refuse to use these aversive stimuli under any circumstances whatsoever. But here's what's truly fascinating, and honestly often overlooked in these superheated debates. Despite this intense ethical warfare, both groups of trainers desperately share the exact same end goal: happy dogs living harmoniously with happy owners. When surveyed, both groups consistently point out that their ultimate objective is to keep dogs in their homes and out of the shelter system. They just have completely fundamentally different roadmaps for getting there. Section 5, the unregulated training industry. Which brings us to the ultimate systemic challenge we face today. If you're a dog owner looking for help, who do you trust? Dog training is essentially the Wild West right now. It's a completely unregulated industry where literally anyone can legally charge you money and call themselves a master expert. There is no required government oversight in the United States or most other countries. Certifications, totally optional, which means the educational background of the trainer working with your dog can vary wildly. The person you hire could have a PhD in animal behavior, or they could have literally just watched a few videos online yesterday and printed out some business cards. And without any regulatory oversight, trainers are just left to interpret the scientific evidence all by themselves. While the wider scientific consensus leans heavily towards reward-based methods showing less canine stress, mixed methods trainers rightly point out that a lot of these studies rely on correlational data or convenient biased testing groups, meaning they don't necessarily prove a direct, undeniable cause and effect. They argue the science itself is flawed. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to take away from our explainer today. In a landscape torn between complex science, deep ethical divides, and a total lack of industry rules, whose job is it to ensure the dog's welfare actually comes first? Well, until there are standardized regulations, the immense responsibility of understanding the science, evaluating the ethics, and ultimately advocating for the dog falls entirely on you, the owner.